There are relatively few people in all of radio that have been able to captivate audiences for as long as Rush Limbaugh did it. Today, he died at the age of 70. For decades, he dominated the airwaves in a monstrous way, fighting what I believe is often the good fight on behalf of the First Amendment and the marketplace of ideas. Whether you agreed or disagreed with what he said, he did so in an incredibly powerful manner, and he furthered our national discourse in an important way. I know that we live in an era right now where if someone disagrees with you, what you try to do, at least for a large percentage of people on social media, is cancel them and not allow them to speak. As anybody who is a regular listener or viewer of any Outkick programming knows, I 100% repudiate that idea. I think the marketplace of ideas is important, whether you are on one side or the other. The way that we reach consensus in the United States is not by attempting to cancel people who disagree with us. It's by winning a battle of ideas. And Rush Limbaugh engaged in a battle of ideas for longer than almost anyone in the history of our country. And let me just take a step back and talk for a moment about what being good on radio, live radio, every day for years on end requires. A unique skill set. People who listen on radio know you in a way that doesn't happen in movies, in a way that doesn't happen on television. You get to know the person that you are listening to on a radio show because you can't fake radio. Good radio is authentic. It is believable. It is sometimes uncomfortable. It is always honest. And I believe the reason why Rush Limbaugh was able to exist for as long as he did is because of the authenticity of his beliefs. And again, as someone who has now been doing solo radio for 5 years, 15 hours a week, it's hard to do. It's almost impossible to do incredibly well. And Rush Limbaugh did it incredibly well for decades. He also was a big sports fan. And I think his firing at ESPN for raising uncomfortable truths is a function of how broken much of our discourse has become, not just in media, but in sports media. Rush Limbaugh pointed out years and years ago, you can go read about it in my book, Republicans Buy Sneakers, where I dove into it in a big way. Rush Limbaugh said something that I think is irrefutably true. It is some people not only root against players at the quarterback position because of their race, some people root for them at the quarterback position because of their race. And this is a battle that is still ongoing today because there are many people out there who, if you dare to utter a word of criticism about a black quarterback, immediately decide that it is racist. And there are many people out there who still decide who they root for based on the race of a quarterback. We just saw this happen at ESPN just a few months ago when Dominique Foxworth came out and said he rooted against Josh Allen because the people who root for Josh Allen are the kind of people who have the American flag in their Twitter profile pictures. That would have been a statement that got him fired if he were a white guy talking about a black guy. And the fact that we don't have a common standard of language and acceptable discourse regardless of identity is, I think, one of the great flaws of the way that we talk about sports in America today. And I thought Rush Limbaugh perceptively punctured in a very short period of time that conversation and how broken and inauthentic and artificial it often was. Rush Limbaugh was right in the way that he broke up the hegemony of ESPN. The fact that he challenged their code of silence when it comes to anybody out there other than far left-wing sports media members is, I think, a credit to him. And I would just say this as well. Think about where we are as a country that Rush Limbaugh could have one day been hired to opine on the NFL, And think about what the reaction would be today if anyone of a conservative bent at all were hired by ESPN. They are a one-party state. And that is why their national discourse is so broken and why their ratings are collapsing. And Rush Limbaugh gave us a preview of that years and years and years ago of what was to come. So I respect anybody. I think probably there is an argument, very strong one, that Rush Limbaugh is the most influential person in American radio history. I think you could probably make an argument for Howard Stern, but when you think about what Rush Limbaugh talked about, it was so much more powerful and important than oftentimes what Howard Stern talks about. And unlike Stern, who in his later years has become a pale reflection of the revolutionary that he was in his early years, 1980s and 1990s Howard Stern would hate the Howard Stern of today. Rush stuck to his guns. He continued his arguments all the way up until cancer took his life. I think he is an incredible talent. I think he is an incredible voice of American politics. And I believe that there is a strong argument. In fact, I think I would embrace it, that he is the most influential, certainly political figure to ever use radio in this country when you consider the length and breadth and scope of his audience and how he impacted the direction of many policies in America today. So rest in peace to Rush Limbaugh, to his family, to everyone that knew him well. I offer my condolences, and I hope that the legacy of Rush Limbaugh is going to be continued embrace for the difficulties sometimes inherent in a robust marketplace of ideas. Everybody's not happy all the time, but there's no constitutional guarantee that you're not going to be offended. And I thought Rush Limbaugh advanced our national discourse more than almost anyone who has ever used radio in their career.